please don't take this as a mark of disrespect to Pope Francis, to the papal institution or the Catholic Church, but I take exception to what he said about people like me. You know, it's a perfectly valid choice not to have children, and he shouldn't be having a go at me just because I haven't had kids, but I've always had dogs. I like to have a pet. You know, I think it's a strange thing to say. Do you support what he says?
Broadly, yes. I mean, it's a bit of the Pope's a Catholic shocker. It's very interesting, actually, because we have a Pope that, unlike the last Pope, who was always very nuanced in what he said, he never kind of shot from the hip. Pope Francis is the kind of leader that often kind of shoots from the hip and says something that's true, but doesn't have the right nuance to it. So, you know, he offended faithful Catholics about 6 years ago by saying, "Oh, we shouldn't have to breed like rabbits." So it seems to be quite contradictory.
But now, yeah, exactly. So now he's saying the opposite. We said we should, you know, he's saying we shouldn't have rabbits as pets, but we should breed like rabbits.
Well, I think the point that he is making, which should be engaged with, is that the West is facing what he calls a demographic winter. And if you look at the rates of fertility, the predicted population rates, in the year 2100, populations of about 23 countries, including Spain and Japan, are due to half. And there are going to be as many babies being born as there are 80-year-olds. So we're going to have this inverted triangle, which means that, you know, we'll have an aging population, you know.
But Caroline, sorry to interrupt, is that a picture that is reflected around the world? Because I was under the impression that one of the problems the world has is an ever-growing population. So arguably, you know, having kids or not having kids is the ecological thing and the selfless thing to do.
That's certainly what's promoted, and this is why, you know, I would perhaps slightly take issue with the idea that people who choose not to have children are being selfish, because people who choose not to have children may actually, I think they're wrong-headed in this, but they may be thinking.
You're calling me wrong-headed?
No, but they may. Yeah, I am. They may think that.
Okay.
The right and the most responsible thing for the planet, and they don't actually feel that they're being selfless. But if you look at all the population data, you can see that actually the world's population is naturally shrinking, contrary to what people would have you believe. And this is aging population is going to be a problem. So I think Pope Francis is absolutely right to address this. I think this is something that is going to require a real reordering of society and a real rethink about fertility. So, for example, you know, women at the moment, we follow a model whereby we have an education, which I'm absolutely not decrying, but we have our education and we go straight into work and we build our career. And then when we want to have children, we find that maybe we've left it too late, and through no fault of our own, we haven't found the right partner. We haven't been able to have children in time. And I think we need to have a really progressive conversation about how can we enable women to have families earlier and then maybe have, you know.
Well, possibly, but I don't think you can frame parenthood as a responsibility or a duty. You know, it isn't my duty to have children. It is my choice. If I want to have children, I will have them. And if I don't, I won't. And whilst I do respect the Pope's position of moral authority, frankly, whether or not I have kids and by the way, choose to have a dog is none of his business.
Well, the thing is, though, Kevin, are you a Catholic? Because you have to remember what capacity he was speaking in. He was speaking as leader of the Catholic Church to his general audience of Catholics. And, you know, I would certainly be very careful generally about ascribing people labels of selfishness, because I think we do live in a society whereby we have this idea that unless we are living this Instagrammable, picture perfect life, unless we can give children their every possible material need, everything that they could ever possibly want, unless everything is 100% perfect, then we shouldn't be having them, and, you know, we shouldn't be bringing them into the world. Now, life is never like that. Life is often very, very messy. And I think a lot of people are kind of falling into this trap of fear and despair, which is what Pope Francis
but Caroline, I think it goes for Catholics too. It isn't Catholics. It is neither my duty to have children, nor is it a Catholic's duty to have children. The Catholic Church, I know it can be somewhat dictatorial, but it has no right to tell people whether or not they should have children. That is a personal choice, surely.
Well, no, that's the teaching of the Catholic Church. That's, it's, you say it's kind of dictatorial, but the teaching of the Catholic Church is, is that marriage is all about, it's not simply about children, but it is about children to the extent that...
For my marriage, it's about having dogs.
I've got a dog. I've got 5 children, two cats and a dog. There's nothing against pet ownership, and actually I did laugh a little bit because I know very well, as you'll know through having a dog, it is a massive responsibility. Insurance, vets bills, taking for a walk, can't just kind of disappear off on holiday. So having a pet is in some ways almost, it's not as burdensome as children, and children are not a burden either. They're a blessing and a joy, but I think we need to change the culture a little bit, in that we are tending to see children as sort of things to enhance our lives and to enhance us, instead of actually children, as the future, children as blessings, children as gifts. I mean, I wouldn't agree.
But sorry to interrupt again. By the way, I'm getting bombarded by a production team to ask you about gay marriage. Okay. What are they supposed to do about it? But as I say, I've got the right to take exception to the Pope calling me selfish for a decision that I came to.
I'm not necessarily. I'm not, because I and you don't have to justify.
The wording wasn't good, was it, Caroline?
Yeah, it wasn't. And this is what I was talking about. Sometimes Pope Francis can be, a little bit hyperbolic,
a little bit gruff.
to be fair, though, Kevin, this is the doctrine of the Church. This is the doctrine of the Catholic Church. People don't like this, but we still have the doctrine about contraception, for example. We say that actually married couples should be open to life. We should always be open to the possibility of a child. That's not to say that every time we have sex we must be trying for a baby, or we must expect a baby, but actually it's this whole doctrine of marriage and being open to life, which is quite long and convoluted probably for this show. There's some very good resources out there. If you look at, say, Theology of the Body, which was a tract written by St. John Paul II, this is the thing with the Catholic Church. We have teaching, and the teaching of the Church is that married couples should be open to life. We're
going to run out of time in just a little while, Caroline. It's been great talking to you. But would you accept, though, that a lot of Catholics, it's all, I know you're very devout and millions of Catholics are, but there are also a lot of Catholics who believe in God, believe in the Pope, but they will take exception to this. They do also believe in their right to work out their own lives, and they don't want the Holy Father saying, you go and have kids or you're selfish. That is, I think, an intrusion into not only my life, but Catholic lives as well.
Well, I think the point is, if you're a Catholic, I think it's interesting. If you feel really offended by it and you're Catholic, actually pray over it. Actually, what do you think God is trying to say to you? Why do you feel so challenged? And in fact, this is something else that the Church teaches, is that whether or being open to life, we should still discern. So nobody is saying the family who's got 9 children and the mum's going to die if she has another pregnancy, or they're in dire straits. They must always be open.
I've got to ask you one last point. Implicit in this, in fact, he basically says it, or it has been interpreted. All life is sacred, and he seems to feel, the Holy Father, that animal life is very much secondary to human life, and I would take exception to that as well.
Well, I mean, it's basic Christian teaching.
God's creatures.
Yeah. But if we are prioritizing human life, is more important.
I think that's simplistic, and I'm not sure that I would agree with that. I think we should put them on the same. All life is sacred, Caroline.
I mean, I love animals too. I love animals too, and I certainly believe that they are God's creatures. I think God gave us animals for a reason, for a purpose, for stewardship, you know, to show us how great He is. But actually, human life is more important.